The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised. Earthlings, and alert the media. Welcome to another edition of the John Lebang Show. In all these years I've been alive, ladies and gentlemen, in all these years, I never would have thought I would be defending or coming to the aid of this person. But when you do what I do here, and that is to talk about life, the world, the existence of mankind, what we do, how we treat each other, how the powers that be try to control us. When you do all that, and you're basically a commentator on life, you end up coming to the aid of somebody you never realized you would come to the aid of. And not that my words are going to aid this gentleman, but I'm siding with him on a particular issue. But it's not the first time that I've come to the aid of somebody I never thought I would do that. About, what was it, a year before, maybe even 2 years before the last election, the presidential election, that is, I came to the aid of Hillary because there were people turning their back on her because she was exposed to be a scumbag. And I can't remember the particular scumbaggery that she had associated herself with at that time. But maybe I'll check the archives in one of the breaks here and find the clip. But I came to her aid because there were people jumping off the Hillary bandwagon because she did this particular scumbag thing she did. It wasn't new. But I pointed out that, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. You've supported her this whole time, and now you're jumping off because this particular thing that bothered you was too heinous, too terrible, when you'd been supporting her through all the other stuff. Well, in this particular case, and I know I'm dragging this out a little bit, but in this particular case, I'm not opposed to this person per se, but I just never thought I would be supporting what they said or supporting their freedom of speech on a particular subject. And I'm speaking about Kanye West. And the reason, there's only one reason I'm bringing this up, is because we have a local radio station, Detroit 105.1, The Bounce. Some of their on-air personalities are they're basically going to boycott Kanye West because he made some statements about slavery that they don't approve of. Doesn't mean they're wrong, what he said. And I think we're going to break it down a little bit. What he said and see if he wasn't speaking the truth. Here's what he said. When you hear about slavery for 400 years, 400 years, question mark, that sounds like a choice. These are Kanye West's words. He continues, like you were there for 400 years and it's all of you all. So he's pointing the finger at people. He continues, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes to, and then he keeps repeating, to direct to the idea of blacks. Those are Kanye West's words. And what he's saying is, at least my interpretation, and I'm pretty sure I am understanding him. I would have said this a little differently, but what he said is black people were slaves for like 400 years. And they obviously didn't do anything about it. They just remained slaves. And although there were cases, these are my words now, there were cases where there were little revolts and stuff. But in general, Kanye's saying that these people stayed slaves for so long they didn't try to not be a slave. I believe that's what he's trying to say. I'm going to try to use my words and see if I can't help people understand, because these people over here at the Bounce who are going to protest Kanye West's music, funny, I'm not even a fan of the guy, really. I don't listen to hip hop. I don't particularly relate with Kanye West on a lot of things. I never gave the guy interest. One, I'm way past the days of looking up to people who are rich and famous and have made their life through entertainment. I might have been impressionable at a younger age, but no longer. We're just human beings. Some make it to the big time. Most of us don't. That's how life is. And no matter how much it sucks for the little guy who really wants to make something of himself, there's just not enough room at the top of the pyramid for everybody to be up there. So maybe I can smooth this out so these people at the Bounce and anybody else who's going to protest Kanye West, maybe I can smooth this out for you just a little. I think he's saying this. These people who were slaves didn't fight for their freedom. And the only way you're ever going to have true freedom is if you make a choice. Are you willing to fight and die to get that freedom, or are you willing to compromise so you can live? Now, it wasn't safe and comfortable for many of the slaves, but because they didn't, as a whole, fight for their freedom, they chose the road of slavery. I think that's what he's trying to say. It took a revolution to give them their freedom. Finally, a bunch of people who weren't them said, this is enough of this. Instead of the people who were living through it, fighting for their freedom. Now, I'm just trying to maybe give you a different perspective on what Kanye West is saying here. This goes to all people. At one time or another, just about every type of person, every civilization has had a form of slavery, and people have lived under slavery. And because of that, at some points, some of these groups fought their way out of slavery. And some of them then became the top dog. And then they, in turn, took slaves for themselves. They didn't learn anything. And that's a funny commentary on the human existence. We don't ever seem to learn from our mistakes. The people who were slaves at one time, if they were ever to gain the power, they in turn would have slaves. They wouldn't give the freedom that they have just gained to everybody. It never seems to turn out that way. It's a sad commentary on the human existence. We had to fight our way through a revolutionary war because eventually we were going to be slaves of the United Kingdom, maybe not with whips and chains or whatever, but it was a taxation, something we're living through these days where we're taxed out our gourds and the people don't seem to do anything about it. So they fought for their freedom back then. It came a point when America said we don't want slavery anymore here. We don't want the slavery. Or at least the type of slavery that went on back then, because we have a different type of slavery these days. When you look at your bills and you look at how much everything costs to survive, and you have to go somewhere, you're obligated to go somewhere and do something every single day. And on top of that obligation, you're cut off the top. There's a percentage of what you do that's just purely taken away. You have no choice in the matter. A part of you is ripped away when you go and work for, some kind of corporation, and that's called taxes. And don't tell me we need these kind of taxes, an income tax. The country survived without it for a long time. Maybe we wouldn't have grown so fast without these income taxes, but maybe we wouldn't have gotten to so many wars, and maybe we wouldn't bomb so many countries today. All this stuff is all tied together. But I think what Kanye West was trying to say, and he's, I don't want to relate him to the president, but they both aren't the most articulate people on the planet. And I think Kanye was saying if the ancestors would have fought for the freedom, yes, they might have died, but there wouldn't have been the amount of slavery and the length of duration of the slavery. But that's how I'm interpreting what Kanye West is saying. And I can't disagree with him. And for a station here in Detroit boycotting Kanye West over some words that have truth in it, may not have been 100% accurate, but there was truth in it. He wasn't lying. He wasn't making a false statement. He was saying, I'm trying to translate it, but I think he was trying to say if people would have fought for their freedom, maybe way back in Africa when the slave trade was beginning, and fought off the slave traders and killed them, that there might never have been 400 years of slavery. There might never have been this civil war if it would have been handled in the beginning. I think that's what he's saying. If I am getting that wrong, Mr. Kanye West, please feel free to contact me. We'll get you on the air and we'll talk about it. Doubt he'll call me, though. Probably I'm not big enough for him. But hey, you're welcome to come on, and I'd like to talk about this right here in Detroit. Anyways, folks, we're up against our first break. More as we continue on. We've got lots of different kinds of news awaiting you. Stay tuned. Now, don't get your panties all worked up.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
And you'll love it.
Check out the new book from Derek Shelmerdine,
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It tells the story of rock and roll from its roots right up until the mid-'70s punk.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Not just the music, but also the events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow him at Twitter at R&R Unraveled, and look him up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Join the radio revolution right here.
It's better than some good Thai stick, man. Yes, I would like some too. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I just finish up a little bit on that in a related story. A good friend of mine, Mr. Robert Bruce. You remember him. He's been a guest a couple times on the show, and I've also was a co-host of his for about, 6 months when we were on a radio station called Truth Frequency Radio. Well, he sent me a little video on Mr. Kanye West, and it was interesting because it was Kanye getting interviewed by a couple of people, and he walks in, he shakes the one guy's hand, and he shakes the hand normally, and then the main talk guy, they had a different handshake. And Mr. Bruce, who's one of the experts in these matters, pointed out to me in the video that was a Freemason handshake, and it was two Freemasons, acknowledging each other. Actually on TV, so other Masons would know that they were Masons too. I bring this up because this whole Kanye West thing could be some kind of fabricated Hegelian dialectic program again. And they could be just sending him out to get the news focused on something else besides the fact that the Pentagon confirmed recently that the Chinese are firing lasers at our U.S. pilots. I don't know if you've heard that in the news, ladies and gentlemen. Have you heard about that? The Pentagon confirmed Thursday that Chinese nationals fired lasers near a military base in East Africa against U.S. government aircraft in the region, injuring several pilots. I don't know if you heard that, because that doesn't seem to be in the mainstream manufactured news. They're focused on Kanye, they're focused on the Mueller investigation, and they're focused on all other types of things. The earthquake and the volcano eruption in Hawaii, and we're going to get to that eventually because that's some big news. They're focused on that. But they're not focused on the fact that the Chinese are firing lasers at our pilots. They're also not focused on what's going on in some other parts of the world. They're not really telling us that the NSA has collected 534 million U.S. phone calls and texts in the last year. That's not really a top story according to the mainstream manufactured news. Kanye West is a big-time story, We've got Charlie Rose. He's a big-time story now. More sexual... whatever. All this sideline issue of sexual harassment in the media and in Hollywood. Like we didn't know that there was a audition chair. And we didn't know that certain people did things to get ahead in the media industry. And that encompasses everything from Hollywood to the news stations and, everything. Radio, TV, movie, everything. It's not some big revelations or a big revelation, but apparently it's big news in 2018. And the fact that the Chinese are now getting uppity with us. I mean, everybody's getting uppity with our military. Except North Korea for some reason. Maybe that's what China's not liking that. Maybe that's the issue. China's not liking that North Korea has now decided to be friends with the South and Trump. They want to get this whole thing over with or something. And their little attack dog might not be their attack dog anymore, so they're getting a little uppity. Russia's getting uppity. Iran's getting uppity. Over there you saw John Kerry. Here we are trying to straighten out this Iran nuclear deal. Bibi over there puts a video out or a presentation out that describes how Iran's violating all these agreements for the nuclear deal. And we find out that Mr. John Kerry is over there trying to keep the deal together, work something. He's not even supposed to be there. He's no longer in the government. What's John Kerry's position? What official capacity could he have in this? He brokered the original deal, or was part of brokering the original deal. You see all this stuff, and it's not making mainstream news. Kanye West is, Charlie Rose is, Trump this, and Giuliani, who's an idiot. Why Trump? I don't know why Trump brought in Giuliani. The whole thing's a mess. I think about how hard I worked to keep Hillary out of office, and outside of a couple things that maybe the corporations wouldn't have got the big tax break if Hillary was in, but Obamacare's still there, and that's coming up. There's more stuff on that coming up. More people are without insurance than ever because they can't even afford Obamacare anymore. We can't get rid of it. The Republicans who promised to get rid of it can't get rid of it for whatever reason. And now it looks like here in the midterm elections, the Democrats are going to win back a bunch of seats, or that's the ebb and flow that normally happens here with our political system in the United States. So we have no chance if Democrats win the House or the Senate, have any sway in those two where they control that House. It's done then. Obamacare will stay forever, and all those promises the Republicans made will have been for naught. They basically gave all their voters the middle finger. Trump and the Republicans have till about September, October, because they can't wait till the last minute to do this, to fix this thing, to get rid of Obamacare permanently. I'd like to see this next round of tax cuts that, remember we heard that next round of tax cuts are coming, and this will be even bigger and better. Where did that go? Trump is now so focused on this Mueller investigation that he's going to get hardly anything done anywhere else. He's been ripping through people left and right in his administration, so nobody can get any traction anywhere. The media's against him, or at least publicly against him. The Democrats are against him. Some of the Republicans are against him. Nobody's working with him anyways. How is anything going to get done that he promised? We're past that point. Because he's got to start after this election cycle, he's going to start beginning his bid for re-election if he's going to or wants to be re-elected. And that's still up in the air. And do you want to re-elect him? And do you want to or elect any of the so far proposed Democrats? Can you believe it's going to be an even worse choice this next election? It doesn't get any better. I've thought about not even involving myself in the election. It's just not, it doesn't seem worth it, you know? You work hard, you do what you can, you do your research. A person like me who tries to get the information out to the public through whoever wants to listen to me, because I don't have the reach of the bigger boys, but I do offer a alternative to even them. That's another thing too that now I'm going to take off into a different direction, is who gets popular and who doesn't, even in the social media world. But this goes back to Kanye West on top of that. You know, how does he get popular? Because I've heard his music. I don't think it's all that great. But people get popular for certain reasons, and other people who offer quality, we'll say entertainment or quality productions, they don't seem to find their way up the chain in the pyramid, you know, each level, each degree. And you can pretty much guess that those are the people who aren't the insiders, the ones that don't find their way up the pyramid. And because it's a sad commentary on man, but the mass group of people out there, they're going to gravitate to whatever's popular. So since the powers that be tell you what's popular, because they control all the forms of media that you know, because people are afraid to test new waters, take a small risk in listening to something different that might shock them out of their sleep a little bit. They might go, hey, you know what you believe? It ain't quite true, because there's this, and this that you probably didn't know about. I brought that up because, I was defending Kanye in the first segment. When I came back, I was giving you a possible flip side of the coin to that. And they always do that, the powers that be. They're always, because they have the means and the financing and the reach. Because just look at the media market, and you go through what station is owned by what, you start realizing that there's only 6, 5, 7, 10 different companies running everything in the media world. I posted a video on my Facebook channel. I didn't create it, but it was a great video showing all the newscasters. It was from Fox, it was from CBS, NBC, ABC, all the newscasters having the exact same script, saying it in the exact same manner, and almost at the exact same pace. They were like robots. I think that's going to go away soon too. All these media people, they don't even know that their job's probably on the brink because they think they're so important. The upper echelon of media, even in the local markets. AI and augmented reality and computer-generated images are taking over. Soon, you won't need a puppet, a real person, reading a script to the audience to tell them the weather and what happened in the news. Because they'll be able to generate either a robot or just a CGI image of a newscaster, some kind of, all-appropriate newscaster that makes everybody feel good. And they'll be able to tell you the news they want you to hear and have it said the way they want it to be said. They do it now with the people who are actually alive and breathing, but they won't need that soon because the computer technology and the AI and all the CGI and everything like that is so good. And they're on the brink of just being able to have computer-generated newscasters giving you the news each and every week. Computer-generated actors. You won't even see actors' faces anymore. It's all going to be CGI. You won't even know if they're real people once the artificial intelligence gets to a certain point. They won't even need actors or any of this. Anyways, we're long, folks. We'll be right back for the second half of this first hour. Please stand by.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
Powerful. Epic music by Toothbox Row. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
Okay, fellas, let's play smart out here.
Yeah, we all know how to play hockey.
I've never played before.
Okay, well, most of us know how to play.
Welcome to Virtual Infinity.
So much for my fear of drowning. Now what do?
I say we really do it better. What do I owe the pleasure of this quiz? We got a big problem here. Run, Leroy, run!
Don't let it grab you.
Holy faces! Oh!
Coming this way, Virtual Infinity, a special presentation of the John Lebang Show.
Hey man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Well, the poor people of Hawaii are living through not only an earthquake, but they've got a volcano going. At least 6 fissures have been sighted. Maybe more are coming. Lava spilling out all over the place in Hawaii. That's not the only hazard because they got the sulfuric gas that's just permeating the air. So people have to be evacuated just because of that so they don't suffocate in that stuff. That stuff will kill you. If you don't get melted by the lava, and if you survive the 6.9 earthquake. I lived through a pretty hefty earthquake. I think it was 6.4 when I lived out in Seattle. Could be off a little bit on the numbers there. It's been years. It was the second earthquake I'd been through. The first one was in Vegas, and I slept through that. I don't know what that was, but I woke up, the bed was on the other side of the room. I don't know how I slept through that, but back then I could actually sleep, unlike these days. But the one in Seattle was I think it was 6.4. It might have been 0.1 one way or the other. And it was pretty shocking. But I believe the magnitude keeps going up for every point. So that seems that on an island, and I'm just guessing that an island, even though it's a 6.9, it feels a little stronger than if you were on the mainland. I'm not sure. If we can get a geologist out there to maybe send us some information about that on the ship to jlebang@live.com. I'd like to find out, would the shake feel stronger on an island versus on the mainland. But we were fortunate enough not that earthquake didn't set off Mount St. Helens or cause any real major damage. But these people in Hawaii are just, roads are being filled up with lava. They can't even cross roads. They've been evacuating people. Some people are staying behind. And that's natural. Actually, when you watch the movies and they have an earthquake or a lava situation. I forgot what movie that was. Volcano. It was probably Volcano, but I could be wrong. That they people stay behind in these instances because they don't want to leave their home. And they're having this issue in Hawaii. But this is going to rock that, because that's a small little place. That's not like you're having a volcano in Texas and most of Texas won't even be affected from it. This is affecting the entire island. It looks like the southern eastern half of the island's the most affected. But you're talking, or we're hearing they're not sure that this thing has done what it's doing. In other words, it could erupt more fissures could open up, which would cause more sulfuric gas. And, my heart goes out to these people. Because and nature can be a beast, but this has got to be one of the more devastating types of natural events, if it was natural and there wasn't some kind of...
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
Conspiracy talk here real quick, folks. There wasn't some kind of scalar weapon or HARP type, frequency type weapon used to... because tensions are high in the world, folks. And whether you want to believe it or not, there are weather modification devices that could cause different kinds of natural looking events. You gotta spell that out completely. Otherwise people twist your words and start calling you conspiracy weirdo. But we already know, if you go back to 1961 when JFK spoke at the United Nations, they were going to work on controlling the weather. At the same time, they were going to work on a global satellite network. Well, we know we have a global satellite network, and it's pretty dang efficient. That's all I'm saying. You can do your research on that and figure out what you want about that. Make your own conclusions. Like William Cooper, we tell you here, don't believe anything we tell you. Double check everything. We try to be pretty accurate here when we tell you something either happened or something's historically correct or not correct. We try to be as accurate as possible. We don't have the largest team on the face of the planet. We may have the smallest team on the face of the planet. But we're doing our, diligent effort here to bring you the most accurate information that we can find. And it's amazing that the information we bring you isn't more readily available through the mainstream manufactured news. The news story that China fired laser weapons at our pilots, man, I can't even find that in the mainstream news. I don't think that made any television network. I could be wrong. If you have a snippet for me, please send it along. If Fox News or CNN or somebody spoke about the Chinese blasting our pilots with laser weapons. I mean, that's what it is now, right? We're basically laser blasters, Can you imagine that we're tapping into Star Wars and Star Trek type weaponry now? That we are on the brink of this. Another thing we're on the brink of, we just heard, what's his name over there? Kurtz. He's the big guy over at Google. He's talking about by 2020, 7+ million people will be out of work because technology will be so advanced that it'll be able to take over that many people's work. And by 2030, that's going to be tenfold. And by that time, we're going to have cures for everything. That's what they say. Whether they're going to make those cures available to us, I'm sure the medical field will have something to say about that. If we take all the money out of being a doctor or a pharmaceutical representative, that stuff may be blocked along the way. Some ways it would be good, in other ways it wouldn't. Because some of the futuristic technology that's coming out is going to lose a lot of people's jobs for them. A lot of people are going to be out of work. And I don't know what they're going to do with all these people that are out of work. Currently, we got, and it's funny because I hear it because of one of the businesses I'm involved in, I hear it from people, I can't find anybody to work. And then I talk to them, I'm like, what do you mean? Well, because most of the people we try to hire just don't want to work, or they're not that good at it. And I'm like, well, how much do you pay? And then they tell me how much they pay. I'm like, well, that's why. You're at the rate you want to pay, you're going to get the least qualified people on the planet and probably some of the least intelligent people on the planet. That's just my opinion. And I've attempted myself to find a replacement for the day job that, I have to do because, sad to say, this show here hasn't grown enough yet to make it possible that I can live without having that day job to supplement the income. I would love for it to be that way, but it's not that way. We're working towards it, though, and hopefully one day we can get there. But when I speak to these business owners that want people to work for them, and they ask me, do you know anybody looking? I'm like, how much do you pay? Because I would move to something that may not be my specialty, but pays better, right? And I know I can do the job. They tell me how much they pay people. I'm like, well, that's why you're only getting the less qualified. That's why you're not finding the best of the best in that field. You got to pay better. It's like the guy over at Amazon making all this money. I mean, he's like the richest guy on the planet. Pretty close, right? If not the richest guy. Which I have no problem. You can be the richest guy. But when you have that much money and then you find out working for Amazon, these people make diddly squat per hour, I'm like, well, there you go. There you go. In a place like Amazon, you don't need the best workers. You need somebody to wrap some tape around a box, put something in a box, and ship it off. Read something right. But in these other businesses, they think they're the Amazon guy. There comes a point where it's like, how much, as the owner of something, as the head of something, do you need to make when you're trying to hire people for dirt cheap, little or nothing? And unless they have some kind of union backing them, they have no clout. It's a little dishonest and dishonorable to sit there and want to pay people piddly squat for work that some of these jobs that these people can't find people in are dangerous, where you're working up on the ladder half the day. second floor. You could fall off a ladder, and they want to pay you diddly squat, $10 an hour, $11 an hour. No insurance on top of that. Or they want you working inside of a warehouse, lifting and wasting your body away, and barely want to pay you an hour. That goes back to what I'm saying earlier. It's the money, just because it's cash doesn't make it not slavery. When you're paying somebody the very base minimum you can, get away with, so you can live the super good life, or you can live at a nice, comfortable level, that's fine and dandy. But when you can't find people, don't complain about it. Because people are tired of working for diddly squat, especially when everything is so dang expensive. You can't even get a sandwich for $2 or $3 anymore. It's $6 here, and if you're in California, it's probably $10 for a lousy sandwich. Gas is through the roof again. I don't know if you've noticed that. I mean, summer is coming. It always goes up. But then we have all these other little things like tensions here and refineries there. And it's just like, life is so damn expensive. And the ones who have the job available for you, want to pay you nothing. And they want you to dedicate all your time to them. Corporations, 40, 50, 60 hours. You got to work. Or your whole life has got to be this for diddly squat. Don't tell me that's not a form of slavery in its own right. And on top of that diddly squat, you pay them 25, 35, maybe 40% is taken for the government. They just take it out of there. You don't even get a shot at that money. Whatever. We're up against another break, folks. We're going to talk some more things on the other side of this. Stay tuned.
Where do you think you're going?
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
So grab a beer and a smoke and sit your butt back down.
Stay right here. Pane in the Glass, commercial and residential window cleaning for a beautiful sparkling shine that's crystal clear. Call Pane in the Glass Window Cleaning. You can find them on Facebook at Pane in the Glass.
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Now here's John.
A few more things I'd like to discuss this hour. First, police raid a home in Chicago, except they raided the wrong home. They bust into a house where two young people were there, and thinking that they were going after some bad guys, and they got the wrong room. The bad guys probably got away, because it's not like they can raid another house. Maybe they just want to bang on every door. This practice of raiding homes, raiding buildings, this is not the first time this has happened where the police department has gotten the wrong place. There was that one guy, they raided the wrong home, and they shot the dude's dog. That was a few years back. I so disapprove of this practice of raiding anybody's home. I know that sometimes people are in danger in these places that they raid, but when you come across something like this and people who are completely not part of any situation and you raid the wrong home, just doesn't work for me. And when you weigh the two together, you've got to find different ways of apprehending these evil perpetrators that might be lurking around in the world. And raiding homes is not one of them. They don't do these raids because they're just going after somebody. It helps them find additional evidence that can help their case because probably it wasn't quite strong enough in the first place. And if I were a politician, I mean, this is just me, that would be one of the pieces of legislation I would work on, making it impossible for police force or any government agency to raid a building without 100% hard factual evidence. It better be the right building. If you do it, you can't. If you raid the wrong building, everybody involved is fired, because that tells me that the people doing the operation don't know what they're doing, and they should not have the position, a position that needs to carry some honor and some dignity and some integrity. And when you're raiding the wrong home, somewhere along the line, the integrity and the and the honor has been swept away. Sheer mistakes by the government need to be unacceptable. Police forces cannot be subject to forgiveness if they are going to enforce the law on the rest of us. Because if they have no integrity, if they're a corrupt organization, which we know a lot of police forces are, which we know the government is, and until they can correct their integrity and their honorability, why should they have the power to invade a home, to raid, as they would call it, a home? They are not this perfect entity. They shouldn't have dominion over the rest of us until they can clean themselves up. John, are you saying that everybody should get away with everything and because they're doing bad stuff because the cops are bad? No. But until the cops can clean themselves up and until the government can clean themselves up, how about they back off the rest of us? In this week's stupid news, and I know you're not supposed to talk about somebody who's dead, but I mean, this goes to the dumbass news of the week, and maybe we're going to do a new segment here. Dumbass news of the week. Man dies attempting selfie with bear. And the bear just mauls the guy, kills him. If you're going to take a selfie with something, you probably don't want to take a selfie with a live bear. Just saying. That's not showing very much intelligence. But we have those people in the world. This happened in India, by the way, so it sounds so bad, doesn't it? We don't want stupid people in this country. We're supposed to have everybody smart and stupid, right? Just accept as much stupidity as possible because we're supposed to accept everybody for who they are, no matter how big of a scumbag they might be, or how much of an idiot they are. I mean, we've gone off the rails as mankind, especially here in the West, to accept some of the stupidity and the moronic behavior. Maybe it's Moron of the Week we need. Give me a good title for the stupid people of the week, the Moron of the Week. And we're going to start featuring one idiot every week here on the John Lebang Show. I think it'll be fun. Be fun. Why not? Just feature some dummy somewhere on the face of the earth and we can point out, you don't want to be like this stupid person. There are better things in life than being a moron. Just saying. But that might be too much. That might be too much for mankind, especially here in the United States. We're supposed to accept everybody for who they are, whatever. Doesn't matter who they are. Just accept them. Lower our standards. And we're supposed to be friends with everybody, no matter how much of a scumbag they are, or how much. It's always the dirt bags, and it's always the people who are the. What's a nice way to say it so I don't offend them all? Sometimes it's real fun being on the radio. It really is. It may hurt my ratings every once in a while that I say things like this because, I offend some dummy out there. No brain. I love the no brain. That was something we used for a dummy when we were growing up. He was a no mind. No mind. Yeah. This guy in India that thought a selfie with a bear was a good idea. He was a no mind. We got a lot of those on well, I was going to say fake book. Fake book's got a lot of no minds on there. Oh, well. So be it as life is, huh? Just the world is filled with this, and we're lowering our standards because we have to accept everything from everybody. Unless you're a low melanin count, straight white male. Then you can't accept anything from them, you know. Everything's wrongdoings there. Just be glad your name's not Anthony Weiner. And that makes you a pervert just from the get-go, right? Tony Weiner. Sounds like a hot dog. It is kind of like a hot dog, I guess, too. Oh, man, I've gone off the railings this show, haven't I? One last bit of information before we get on out of here. Gibson Guitar, which is my favorite guitar of all time, as far as company is concerned, they have to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection because they're just not doing so well. And I think that has a lot to do with they sell a lot of cheap, crappy Epiphones instead of making Gibsons affordable enough for the average consumer to buy a Gibson instead of a stupid Epiphone. Yeah, Epiphone's a great guitar. A lot of people have them. I'm telling you, they are nothing like the traditional Gibson guitar. They are the best. The only other guitar that has that kind of quality beyond it. And I'm not a fan of these, but Fender's a pretty darn good guitar as well. But anytime you get these, sister brands or the subsidiary brand, they're never quite the same. And they're not built the same. They don't last the same. They have no value. Like a lot of these new guitars have no value. Buy an Epiphone, it's like a car. You buy it at one price, and if you go to sell it, you get a third of the price because all the value is gone. But I've got some Gibsons that they were $400 maybe way back in the 60s, and now they're worth some money. Now they're worth, because it's a Gibson. Same with a Fender. There are other good guitar companies out there. I like Gretsch. I've never been able to afford one, but man, I'd love to have a Gretsch. They're great guitars. But overall, getting back to Gibson here, they've gone, they moved out of Michigan and they made good guitars for a while, but when they've started really pumping out the Epiphone brand, and you see it all over like places like Guitar Center, Epiphone. They have 900 Epiphones in there, and then you get the 10 or 12 Gibsons. And they're locked up in a room because the Gibson's the good one. The problem is the Gibson's too expensive anymore. And then Gibson also had some trouble some years ago with the federal government because they brought in the wrong kind of wood, some really special wood, and the government didn't like it, and they fined them up the wazoo. They raided them, I think, for the wood. Government likes wood in all kinds of places. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this 60 minutes of the John Lebang Show. I truly, truly appreciate you joining me each and every week. We've had so much success, at least beyond what I ever thought we have, and we're still nobody here, but it's all because of you coming each and every week on our many affiliate stations. I get great emails from you all the time saying, man, I didn't know that information, thanks for giving it to me, or man, that was a great show. Checking in when I was having some down weeks because we had kind of tough April here at the John Lebang Show. I'm just recovering vocally. You can hear my voice is finally coming back. Last week I was almost dead. So more great things are coming for the show in the coming weeks and months and years. We're going to be doing some shake-up, and we may talk about that in the second hour as we progress in the coming weeks. We'll be doing that as well, talking about some of the things we're changing up. Thank you again. Please go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, and for some of you, that's next time. This is John Lebang, signing off from the Banger Studios.
Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance